Maybe lastly, on the issue of the report or the handing over process, did you at any stage ask for a handover report or a handover meetings from the city manager's office, it being the city manager or the group head, Baledi Marota, at any stage of the handing over?
Look, it was understood by us that we were supposed to get a handover report. I don't have documentation in front of me, like emails and that, but we did have one specific meeting with the MMC for community safety. I will have to go check my records on that exact date and time, where we had Mr. Nava Pillay and his support team, Mr. Malachi and his team, myself, I believe the Chief of Police was also there, where it was agreed upon that all the information would be made available to us and in writing, emails, reports, at a certain time, and that wasn't forthcoming. I didn't, perhaps, in hindsight, made enough of a follow-up, but if you've thrown in a deep end with such a thing, you find your way, and that's what we did. We started sourcing the information ourselves. We looked at what we had in front of us, and we were very busy starting the new tender as well, because we had to immediately, I think we started in August, immediately started with a new tender because the current tender was to expire soon, and it's quite a process in the city to start a new tender. So yes, I know about that one specific meeting. There could have been some emails as well. I'm not confident to say exactly how many or what it was, yeah.
Yes, okay,
I want, Deputy Chief, I want to take you back to your response to the second last question by Mr. Musigidi. I just want to make sure that I understood you. Did you mean that there is no budget whatsoever for ad hoc security services?
Yes. Look, as I explained before, Commissioner, if ad hoc has come in already and it's now part of the operationalization on a daily, monthly basis, then that would have been counted in and worked in. Look, this was maybe unplanned for, but now it's part and parcel of the operations. That would have been covered by the budget.
But something that may arise from
unplanned.
That point onwards, that's not budgeted for whatsoever.
No.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Musigidi.
Thank you, Commissioner Bolhuis. And just understand, there is no attack on you. The difficulty we have is that if the handover was mismanaged or was botched to begin with, and you were left to be on an autopilot and you had to find your way, we need to understand, because ultimately we now know that there were challenges that came with this transition when things happened without even your knowledge. And we're trying to find out exactly where the problem might be. And this is like I said, there's no attack on you, but it's just trying to understand. Remember, as the commission, as we said, we don't even know, and the question was posed to you, we don't even know why this unit was initially moved. And it's not even clear why it was moved back again. But when that is done, the handover process is not done in a way that, as you testified, in the most, one would have said, acceptable manner to allow you to do what you're supposed to do. And it's really on that score that I keep on asking you this question to say, did you make sure that you do your best as well to make sure that you are given a proper handover?
Look, once the ugly things come out, it's not so easy to say you've done your best, because you scrutinize yourself and you think to yourself, what could you have done better? So I'm a very hard person on myself. Have we done the best? No, I don't think we have. Could we have done much better? Yes, we could definitely have done better. Could I personally have done more? I should have. And I stand for what I've done and what I haven't done. I'm an honest person. But it is clear, looking back now at what has transpired, that there are elements within the city and in our department that uses the processes and things in place. They use that as a mechanism for their corruption and for their ill doings. We were used as decent, law-abiding, loyal officials. Both me, the chief of police, other officials, we were used because it happened under our nose. But it comes again to, you trust people. You don't want to enter into a space with an immediate mistrust. But if there would have been any form of indication to us, to me, I could have maybe put in more measures in place to ensure that the system is very tight and that wrong things can't creep through. I think that's all I can say about that.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Deputy Commissioner, can I just to make sure that I understand the import of what you're saying, are you saying that the movement of APSS from the Office of the City Manager to TMPD, that in itself, is that what you're referring to when you say you were used? And had you known better, you would have responded better. Is that relocation that you're complaining about as you being used and taken advantage of?
Madam Commissioner, not necessarily, but that could be the case. I don't know.
Yes.
I'm referring to once the move was done to the department.
Yes.
And the day-to-day running of the division, which was handled by Director Malachi and his team. In that day-to-day running, yes, under our noses,
yes,
things happened, and in that we were used.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Commissioner. Can we then go to what we say, the uglies? Can we now know that you did inherit as part of the transition, this tender 02, 2016, 2017. Can we deal with that? It's from paragraph 17 of your statement, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioners. Paragraph 17 under E, tender TMPD 02-2016-17. I inherited the above tender with the transfer of APSS. In this tender, the city appointed 22 security service providers to supply the physical security, in brackets guarding, services to protect the property, asset and personnel of the city of Tshwane for a period of 3 years with effect from March 2022. Paragraph 18,
Commissioner, I think we do have the names of the companies, the 22 companies on record. Can you then go to paragraph 19?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paragraph 19, I had to oversee the implementation of this tender going forward until such time that the new Deputy Commissioner was appointed to take over. On to the next page, 20, paragraph 20. To reiterate the context of the tender, the above tender for the supply of physical security to protect the property, assets and personnel of the Tshwane Metropolitan Municipality originated from a request to advertise, which is a TAR, T-A-R, a tender issued by Mr. Tsukudu Malachi, Director Protection Services, on 8 July 2016, co-signed by the then Deputy Chief of Police Specialized Services, Mr. R.R. Mashlaule, and approved on 19 July 2016 by the then Chief of Police, K.S. Ngubeni, the late K.S. Ngubeni, may his soul rest in peace. The TAR and specifications are attached as Annexure SB2 to Mr. Revospe's statement, and I need to not attach the same herein. The 21. The background to the tender has been dealt with sufficiently by witness Deputy Revospe and Chief Yolanda Faro, which I agree with and do not repeat.
Yes, carry on. Under the topic of uploading of purchase orders between January 2025 and February 2026.
Thank you, Commissioners. Paragraph 22 under F. I have come to learn that the Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Gareth Menisi, and Deputy Commissioner Umashi Dlamini communicated with each other on 5 March 2025 by sending messages through Sergeant Fani Nkosi in relation to the creation of purchase orders for ad hoc security services. Paragraph 23. The purchase orders created out of this process were registered on the TMPD system only on the following day, 6 March 2025. These included purchase orders for ad hoc services, ostensibly procured from Gubis 85 Solutions Pty Limited, in the aggregate amount of 13,635,133 rand and 60 cents. In brackets, it gives the number without VAT. It's 11,856,638 and 14 cents plus VAT. A spreadsheet listing these purchase orders is attached as Annexure SB3. All of these amounts were paid to Gubis 85 Pty Limited. Paragraph 24. Though these purchase orders were created and loaded on 5 and 6 March 2025, after my acting stint as caretaker of APSS, some of these purchase orders refers to work and services allegedly provided during my tenure as caretaker. 25. I am aware that Commissioner Revospe already pointed the obvious skewed allocation of work favouring Gubis 85 Solutions Pty Limited. Paragraph 26. I reiterated that I never gave permission, nor was I aware of such allocation of work to Gubis 85 Solutions Pty Limited during the time in question, and in particular January 2025, February 2025, or to any other company.
Commissioner Bolhuis, is that not itself irregular, that purchase orders are only created many months after the work is done? Is the practice not that in order to allocate work to somebody, a purchase order has to be created? Why is it here, for example, that on the 6th of March, you've got purchase orders created and loaded on the system, but the work in some instances was done the previous year in 2024?
Commissioner, I'm not a financial expert, but I'm not 100% sure about that process. I would assume that once the sites have been allocated to a service provider, you would receive an invoice. Then the invoice in the department will go to the financial section. A purchase order would be created, and then I believe it goes to supply chain management to the buyers to do something and then payment from the CFO's office.
So the purchase order is created after the invoice?
I'm under correction, but I do think so. I'm not sure.
I mean, isn't that a problem? Because my understanding of procurement is a purchase order is an indication of the goods and services that you would have ordered. And it will give you an indication of how many people, what is the price, and what is going to be deployed. And that prepares you then for when the work is done, the invoice that is issued will match the purchase order. And you verify, so you compare one with the other and you say, these are the goods and services that I've asked for. They were provided. The invoice matches the purchase order, then I can make the payment. But if you get a purchase order after the invoice and many months after the work is done, what service did you procure and what did you use to procure the service?
I see your sentiment there, Commissioner. We have to also keep in mind that this is an approved contract, approved service providers, and ad hoc services were then allocated to a service provider, in this case seemingly irregular, but let's say for argument's sake it wasn't, and in an approved contract with an approved budget, and then it's invoiced, and then it goes to the department financial section for the further processing, and that includes the purchase order. But as I say, I'm not in a position to speak on finances that much. The CFO will be able to clarify that in detail, and even Deputy Commissioner Dlamini, who's in charge of our financial, overall in charge of the financial section in the department.
But it worries me because you say at some point before the process was changed, you were responsible for co-signing invoices after Director Malachi had approved them.
Yes.
So if you are not aware of the process and we need to get answers from the CFO, it worries me because it means that people who are approving and co-signing invoices running into millions, I mean this is 13.6 million, are not aware what the process is and they are just signing and people are being paid public funds without understanding the process. It's a concern for me.
Noted.
Commissioner Bolhuis, are you then saying in response to the question by Commissioner Khumalo, as, and I use the word loosely, as the head of the department, as the APSS unit, you played no role? Or what role did you play? Let me put that, what role did you play when ultimately it comes to the processing and the payments of the service rendered, especially on the ad hoc basis?
Yes, once the operational part is concluded, let's say documents are provided, invoices are generated from the service provider, and it comes through APSS. It goes to the financial section within the department. Once it's there, I do not play another role there. There is a financial process that they follow that has to be in line with the MFMA supply chain management procedures of the city, etc., etc. So I don't play a role how it's put on the system. We as a city use a SAP system. I don't play a role how it moves from the finance section to supply chain management, and I don't play a role how it moves from supply chain management to the CFO and his office for actual payment. I can, as a senior official, make inquiries about late payments, why this has not been done, was all invoices submitted, those kind of things, but not physically part of that financial process.
I know you say somewhat further on in the statement that you had no involvement, you were not informed about the allocation of these
Yes,
ad hoc
I wasn't.
sites. Your internal operating procedures, they don't require that you should be informed when there's a request for ad hoc services so that you can approve, or even it's just for noting. Don't your operating procedures require that?
It is required. It's not a written down standing operating procedure, SOP. Well, it should be, but it wasn't at that stage. But as mentioned before in some other remarks I made earlier, is when there's an operational impact, financial impact, and contract impact, I must, as the head, as the overseer of APSS, I must be informed. Because although Director Malachi runs that unit or section division, he runs it basically in totality, day-to-day running, managing the contract. If it starts affecting the budget, he doesn't sit in the top management budget meeting between the deputy chiefs and the chief of police to determine what the status is of the budget, the expenditure, what we must do with upliftment of funds, what we must do with the adjustment budget, etc. So it was clear in our communications, in our meetings, in the way we worked, that this information should have come to my office, because prior, in 2024, once again, Klipgat is a very good example. We were informed, I was informed about the ad hoc requirements. It was looked into, it was investigated, it was allocated, funds were made available for that. Whether there was good planning or not, that's another matter. That's the internal issues of a municipality. So there's no ways that the management of APSS could have thought there's no need for the head, the overseer, the deputy chief, not to inform him about these ad hoc services, which will have a severe effect on our budget and operational implications. So yes, ma'am.
Commissioner, just maybe let me understand it from a different angle. It is correct that you wouldn't, as part of your job, be involved in confirming that the actual warm bodies were actually placed by service providers as per invoice. That would not be part of your job.
Definitely not. That would be part and parcel of the management and instructions by Director Malachi. And I did mention it earlier as well about the mid-level people that were supposed to go and check up on the service provider. We call it contract management, to ensure that they actually do what they say they do. Because if they don't, there's a penalty clause that must be implemented. That's part and parcel of the contract and the SLAs between us as a city and these service providers. So it would be their function.
Yes, so you are not involved on that level, on confirming the warm bodies were actually deployed, but also you're not involved in the final leg where the processes, the payment processes are engaged. And I'm trying to understand then your oversight role. Where does it start? Where does it end? And is it by design, which is something that this commission might have to speak to when it makes a recommendation? Or is it something that had to do with you perhaps being overwhelmed by 2.5 posts that you're already engaged with? Or are there any other factors that maybe we need to consider that led to this difficulty? What's your comment?
Yeah, look, in hindsight, I would say it's a combination of some of those factors, and it was a flawed process. I understand when the Commissioner raised the serious concerns about not knowing the actual financial processes, how it unfolds. And if one look at it, standing back and look at it like you now looking at it holistically with a bird's eye view, you need to be more hands-on, especially if your staff is not in place, your systems are not in place, you don't have all the resources. As Deputy Chief Spies is, and as he continues to involve himself more and more into this space and putting systems in place and instructions and so forth, more information is coming out and it's managed in a much better way. So I would believe, yes, a combination of those things, but definitely flawed from my side. Oversight should have included the complete process till it leaves the financial office when it goes to supply chain management. Whether that would have stopped irregularities, I doubt it. But look, if you have to fall on your sword for not doing enough, you have to fall on your sword.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner, can we then move to the next topic, which deals with, I think we touched on it a bit, the allocation of...
I'm just looking at time. Maybe let me ask my question and then it will take us to lunch. Because I see you have 2 minutes. If you're starting a new topic, it's going to compromise you. Just out of interest, Commissioner Bolhuis, did the Auditor General raise any issues in the 24-25 financial year about the ad hoc security services? Was there any finding in relation to those? Do you know?
I can't recall, Commissioner, but I can't say with certainty. I would have to check. Once again, a CFO would be able to immediately answer that, but I can't recall. I don't think so, but I'm not sure.
And how does it work with your departments? Is there an internal audit that audits individual departments and then you submit your reports for the full audit of the city? Or is TMPD audited individually? How does it work exactly?
We have internal audits in the city. It falls under the Group Audit and Risk Department, GAR, and they have the internal auditors. They do internal audits as they see fit in all departments. They do further internal audits if there's a pre-indication by the AG that there's something untoward or something that they've picked up irregular in a department or in multiple departments. They also advise on a high level what procedures and systems to be and policies to have in place to ensure that we don't necessarily cause our own demise by causing unnecessary audit findings. Then in the department, in the Metro Police Department, we have a very small component that works closely with the internal auditors, but also looks internally to educate, to coordinate, and to manage possible audit issues, and to ensure that management is aware of where there could be issues and where management action plans must come into place to ensure that we rectify matters. So those are the processes in place.
And will you check for us to see if they did not flag this issue of
For
allocation
IPSS.
of ad hoc security services?
I will check in the break. I'll see if I can find that information.
You may have to do it in a supplementary statement.
That's fine.
I don't want you to just say, I checked, this is what they said. Because remember, this must be evidence before the commission.
We will do so, Commissioner, definitely.
All right, thank you.
Let us adjourn and resume at 2 p.m.